Alrighty, this video is a continuation of the prior video about sharks on the flats. I spent a couple days just targeting a couple of different varieties and just to kind of show you what's available and the keys. This first one is the very common bonnet head. Most likely it'll probably be the most prevalent and most people's first sighting of a shark on the flats. They roam pretty much all over the place, so it's kind of hard to miss them. You'll find them in barely inches of water, where these guys maybe grow up to be a maximum of a couple of feet. So the average ones you'll see are in that 1 foot to 2 foot range, but they swim all the way up into the shallows where half their body is sticking out. Very specific to tell because of the head of it is I guess they're also known as a shovel head, because they have kind of like a pyramid shaped triangular head up front. Some people say they kind of resemble like a hammerhead, but with just a pointy face. Probably people's first catch will be this shark here. Fairly easy to catch. Just throw out any type of dead bait. They're kind of like a bottom feeder. The way I catch them usually is that I'll anchor up somewhere with a push pull or anchor using dead bait, and I'll start off by just scattering a few small chunks around the kayak just to put some scent in the water, and you'll see them start coming by and just kind of sensing the smell and just doing circular patterns, trying to figure out where the scent is coming from. At that point, it's just a matter of throwing out a baited hook, a small chunk. No real need for a weight, because on the flats there tends not to be that much current, and just kind of flick them out in front of them and give them a chance to find it and eat it. The one I caught, I actually had to dangle it in mid water column for it to take it, but it took it. So just a good training tool too if you're wanting to learn how to fish the flats in regards to bait presentation and casting and trying to leave a minimal amount of splash, and kind of how to work the bait along the bottoms to imitate like a shrimp and so forth. These are very feisty little fighters, so they make perfect targets for light tackle. One other thing to consider is got to be very careful when handling them. Like most sharks, they're one big muscle, and these guys have very small but very sharp serrated teeth. They also have the ability to reach around and bite their tails, so always make sure you control that head. My preference is I grab them by the dorsal fin, since they're not very big, and then just lift them that way, and that way they can twist around and there's no chance of them grabbing my arm or body or anything, and then just dehooking them and letting them go. The next species of shark is the Bloc Tip. Now I don't normally catch these on the flats, but usually the channels, and especially the deeper channels that run adjacent to the flats. The other difference is that I normally don't fish for them with baits on the bottom. Usually I'll run a suspended bait using the balloons, either live bait or dead bait, and basically floating them down these channels. The other way I'll do it is to slow troll a live bait. The baits I usually use are the blue runners, the Jack Crevalles. Mullet is an excellent bait, but then you can also use legal size mango snappers, grunts, even yellowtails if you can get them inshore work great. The different rigging though is, instead of just a nose hook, I'll generally run a stinger hook. These sharks tend to be a little bit smarter and know to just go for the fillets, so they'll just hit the back part of the bait, not the head, so that stinger hook comes into play. Now these are very acrobatic fighters. They remind me a lot of a tarpon, because they're jumpers, and you'll see them a lot of times. They'll fight, and then they'll take a run and then jump and spin and roll and cause big frothing bubbles in the water from their explosions. So definitely a very fun and interesting fight if you can hook onto one and keep it on the line. and unfortunately lost this one. It did basically a jump with the barrel roll and just spun himself up, and then got to the mono leader and broke it right off. I'm just using 80-pound mono leader. This is kind of the reason why when you hear these guys, these pro shark guys, where they're talking 2, 3, 400-pound leaders. I'm just not going out and buying that stuff for sharks. So, and the most interesting part is just that the jumping and the runs and stuff. After that, I'm fine with not doing the bulldog and grunt and moan type of part of the fight. So, a quick release is all right. Maybe if I think in my prior videos you can see them that I've landed them, but if I land one and get some close-ups, I'll show them later. But this is kind of not a flat shark, so it doesn't need to be so in-depth. The next flat shark is the nurse shark. Probably the second most prolific shark that you'll see up on the flats. Next to the bonnet head being the number one. You'll see these guys swimming in and around just the thin, skinny water like the bonnet head. However, these guys can grow up to very large, 8+ foot size, so they can get very big. You generally don't see them that massive on the flats, but you can see some moderate, good 4 or 6 footers there. But very common to see the little 1 to 2 footers. I can kind of see that they're there by the color. They tend to be like a dark brick red color, and they kind of have that more of a whip style tail. Another one that's a bottom feeder. Realistically, I kind of call these the kittens of the shark family because they're very docile. They're probably the weakest fighter of all the species, and they're probably the least dangerous. If you could probably rank them equivalent to a catfish, I would say. Since they're primarily a bottom feeder, I usually use a large, or depending on what size I want to catch, up on the skinny flats, I'll just use a small chunk of squid or any type of cut bait and just flick them out in front of them. I'm pretty sure they have very poor eyesight and rely mainly on scent. So as long as you just have that bait out there, and you'll see them circling around until they finally pick it up and take it. I also catch them quite often by just using a knocker rig with like a live or dead pinfish or grunt or any decent sized chunk bait, and just enough weight to make sure that it pegs it to the bottom, because they will be just going right along the bottom and looking for food. Or like this one here, I used a large 12-inch Jack Crevalle and just sliced it up and let its own weight drift it to the bottom and let the fish take it. Not the most exciting fight, but it's a nice one there. This is more of the larger size that I caught in a little bit more deeper water. Up on the flats, like I said, it'd be like 1 to 2 footers. Now, I would never try to release any of these other varieties of sharks by doing what I'm doing and just trying to reach in there with a little hook remover. But these nurse sharks, like I said, are basically an overgrown catfish, and they're about as violent as a kitten is. So not such a big threat, but you still just kind of want to be careful because they are, like this one was a bit bigger. But again, just no reason to be afraid of these guys. Now, this last one is a sawfish. Now, sawfish aren't actually sharks. They look kind of like sharks, but they're, I think, more of part of the ray family. I have two-part videos of this catch, so you can go look at those videos if you want to see the full thing or the gussied up version of it as well. But one of the things I wanted to post on here on this one is this is a good example why fishing for the larger sharks with light tackle is a bit of a risky business. The rod I'm using is actually a 7-foot heavy rated spinning rod, so it's not exactly light tackle, it's that borderline there. But still, when you're dealing with these real big hefty sharks in a kayak where you don't have a lot of maneuverability and you have bad angles, and that you really can't put very much pressure on them because you're sitting so low to the water and you're trying to bring them up, it becomes very difficult and you get bad angles on the rod. In fishing terms, it's called high sticking, and that's when you're lifting up and you got that super massive arch and it becomes too short of an angle, and then your rod ends up snapping. And in this case is exactly what happened there. Because it was kind of an exotic species, I took the risk that I wanted to get it up so I can get some better video of it. Otherwise, a normal shark, I would have got it up close enough and then I would have just cut the line or pointed the rod at it and then yanked on it to break the leader. Or it's just I just kind of wanted to let people know before they start this is that you have to weigh against the cost of a rod versus bringing in these larger fish like that. So it's kind of the reason why I know I'm going to be targeting these larger sharks, that I use my stand-up trolling rod, because it could take the weight a little bit better. It's a little bit shorter. It's a little bit more stouter, so as I get them closer, I'm able to put a lot of leverage against it and be able to pull those sharks closer for the release, versus these light tackle where you're putting some ungodly bends in them. But you can do like a lot of people would do, is get them to jump and fight and get them close to the kayak, grab the leader, and just basically cut the line. Or what you do is, in either way, is you could reel down kind of like a snag, reel your rod tip directly at the shark until you take out all the slack on it, and you're basically pointing at the hook. Grab the spool and just pull back as hard as you can really quickly and just snap the leader or the line wherever at the weakest point, and be done with it instead of breaking your expensive rod. That was basically a $120 mistake right there, but fortunately I just want to do this also as a kudos to the West Marine here in downtown Key West. I was talking to guys and telling them what happened, and I didn't have the receipt, and they didn't have records of it, so I thought I was SOL, but I ended up buying a brand new one because I had to have a heavy duty rod for my inshore stuff anyways. But one of the guys took initiative and just, hey, don't worry about it, bring back the broken one and we'll just use the receipt off this new one. And he basically refunded my money back and gave me the new rod. So that was a big plus for me. So it took the sting away quite a bit. So I have just nothing but good memories about this catch.